Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of statistics, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and an enormous selection of players and stat options are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million football fans who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Welcome to the 4th episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast. Every week, I aim to introduce you to an interesting Mancunian from this culturally diverse city in Manchester. We'll hear from ordinary people making an extraordinary impact. Presented by Deepa Thomas Sutcliffe, Newbie Mancunian. Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Looking to find your musical tribe? We hear from Kat Browning, founder Tea & Jam, in this episode. I'm delighted to introduce my guest, Kat Browning, founder Tea & Jam. Thank you, Kat, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely. So, Kat, tell us about your passion for music. How did you find it?
Well, it found me, I think is probably a better way of putting it. Music has always been in my life. I don't remember a time where music hasn't been a feature somewhere. My parents are both musicians, and, you know, amongst other things, my mother would sing me to sleep at night. And my dad, I have a distinct memory of my dad recording his album in the room below mine in our first house, and I would fall asleep to there's a particular bit in one of his albums where there's sopranino recorders were trilling. He would do this into the night, you know, and I'd fall asleep to that. So I also used to fall asleep at the back of the stage of my parents' ceilidh band, and I've played in that same ceilidh band since I was about 8 or something. So, you know, when I wasn't being looked after by our, you know, usual nanny, I would be at the back of the stage, and I was fine there. I liked it.
I love it. Could you tell listeners about the weekly practice along sessions?
Yeah, of course. So every Wednesday between 7 and 9, we meet on Zoom for a synchronized practice session, which we actually call Work in Progress Wednesdays, or WIP Wednesdays, just because it's on Wednesdays, and I can't resist a nice pun. We meet up at 7 p.m. And then we warm up together for 15 minutes, which is an essential part of practice. And then we all go on mute, so we can't hear each other, but we can see each other practicing until our next break, which would be at 8 o'clock. And then we chat, usually it's between 15 and 30 minutes because, you know, why not? There's usually a small group so we can keep it contained. And then we go back on mute to practice until 9 p.m, which is basically my curfew cutoff here. So we actually have members from all over. My parents join from North Wales, and they have a lodger who also joins. We have a couple of people who have joined from the Northwest sort of area. There is also one steadfast member called Bruce, who's amazing. He's all the way from Minnesota in the US, and he's there every week. It's amazing. And we really spur each other on during those practice sessions.
Sounds really lovely. What inspired you to get involved?
Sorry, say that again. Oh, involved. Yeah, so I founded Tea & Jam because as a professional, I often did find myself feeling isolated and lonesome when it came to my own practice sessions and performances and practicing with nowhere to play kind of thing. And this obviously was massively exacerbated by the pandemic. the pandemic hit all musicians pretty hard, simply because what we do is a social art, and one that doesn't suit the likes of Zoom, and because of the inherent latency, because it's not built for it, basically. Hobbyists in particular, I feel like they've been dealt a really awful hand, because they have the government only stated that you could only travel to places of work during the pandemic, and a lot of hobbyist musicians found that their social outlet, also their mental health support through music was gone. It was all gone. And sure, Zoom rehearsals have happened through some means, but there's nothing like singing or playing with someone in the same room. There's just nothing like it. Since then, it's there are some pieces of software that allow you to sort of have some synchronicity, but again, it just depends on your internet speed, basically. So that's what made me sort of rekindle the idea of Tea and Jam.
Lovely.
Being able to do sessions remotely is really helped with their homes as easily. Includes most people during the pandemic when they were isolating, but then when it comes to people who are bedbound or housebound, at least, they can still join us. I actually find it very useful because I have hidden disabilities. I'm actually autistic, and I find a lot of places are not accessible to me, mainly due to noise levels or lights, false lighting. Crowds also do freak me out quite a bit. So the usual bread and butter sort of gigs and networking events that would be favoured by a lot of musicians, I can't do, just because it makes me ill, to be quite honest. So so I have that as hidden disabilities. There are a couple of other things going on in the background, but those are the main ones that kind of engendered the idea of remote sessions like this. And they're, whether I love it or hate it, it's just a part of who I am. So I feel like I wanted to have something that was there that would celebrate those differences in other people as well, and for us to actually feel like we've got some sort of representation as well.
I love it. Thank you. And who is it that you're really helping and supporting? Are they all experienced musicians, or are people of all abilities, all ages?
Yeah, it's mainly from 18 plus. We're all about adult music makers. I find myself sort of reaching out a lot to hobbyist musicians a lot, but the practice sessions, as I mentioned earlier, they're up for all standards, because you don't have to be any particular standard. You just got to have something to work on, which everybody does. Everybody will have. So it was just it's a chance to help as many people as possible by letting them help each other, kind of thing. And by supporting one another and being an uplifting community, basically. Just see. Yeah, so Whip Wednesdays, or the practice along sessions, are for everybody. We do actually have regular showcases as well for the hobbyists in particular, so that they can give their pieces an airing. And the next one we have is on the 18th of December 2021. I don't know when this episode is going out, but that's our next one as of time of this recording. And we're trying to plan some potential hybrid events, although that's not concrete yet, but we're going to try and plan some hybrid events for 2022, but that's very much in the early stages at the moment.
That sounds fun, and I'll try and ensure the podcast is people can listen to it before that.
Great, yeah.
So what impact would you say you've made so far?
I think that several musicians have stated that these events have made a huge difference to their just motivations to practice and to play, actually, simply because they have the company to do it with. It's actually made a huge impact on me, because the Whip Wednesday, or just the practice longs in general, means that I know I've put that time aside to spend on the practice, to spend on my own development. And that's an element of self-care, I feel like. And it's just sectioning off a piece of the day for you. And I feel like it's done a lot for my mental health. I think it's done a lot for other people's mental health. I mentioned Bruce before, been to most sessions. I think he's missed one since February or since April when he joined. My mum and my parents and that household, they've written numerous tunes during the practice alongs. And others have commented that it's just been that their playing has improved immeasurably since, which I think is fantastic. I think that's the best bit. And also people just feel the camaraderie, which I really think is necessary after 18 months, 2 years of basic isolation. I think that's really, it's got a lot to be said for it.
Sounds really lovely. How can interested people reach out to you and learn more?
So the best way to learn more is if you go to our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/TJamLive. TJam Live is also all of our handles on social media, but the Facebook group is the best place to be for that. I think that's probably the best bet. Or you can WhatsApp me if you like, on 079 444 04731. That's 079 444 04731. You can also email Kat with a K at tjam.live. Best bet is probably going to the group, and that way you can meet everybody and they can point you in the right direction as well. Everybody is really helpful.
Lovely. What advice do you have for people who are looking to do something similar in their own communities?
I would say if there's a need for it, just do it. Try and find out ways of doing it cheaply at first and build it from there. And then once you've got some traction, just go for it. I would say that I actually found the new enterprise allowance very helpful. So I'm on universal credit at the moment. I think a lot of musicians are on universal credit, or self-employed people generally, to be fair. So if you have an idea to help bring a community together and to sort of establish a business, the new enterprise allowance is really helpful to do that. And then once you've done, I think it's 3 months with them, you can then be helped by something called Enterprising You. And there's so many resources for you to help you get the best out of your business. But just make sure that you've got, on a personal level as well, you've got to make sure you've got the personal support there for when things maybe don't go as quickly or as well, or you don't earn as much money as you want, because you need that, also need that emotional sort of support as well. So just make sure you've got a good network of people behind you who know what you're doing, and if things don't go to plan, you can always just go, well, that didn't work, and you can laugh about it with people, because that's something I learned quite hard. So learning to laugh about when things didn't quite work out, and being adaptable, and having that support network allowed me to be as adaptable for that.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to switch gears now and ask you my signature questions, which I hope to ask all my podcast guests. So the first one is, what do you love about Manchester?
I love the diversity. I love okay, let me retrace that step. Hold on a minute. So I love the history involved in Manchester. The Industrial Revolution has left its fingerprints everywhere, and the mixture of old and new is just incredible. And the fact that people are still using the older buildings, and but also there's much innovation happening, at least in the city centre, and as a result, you've got a huge eclectic community of different types of people. You've got The culture is so diverse as well, because you've got the usual thing which people point to is the football, but then you've got this massive historical, like, music history as well. Like the Halle is, I think it's the oldest orchestra in the world, I think, or at least in Europe. And it was founded by a clarinetist, actually. I'm a clarinetist too, Charles Halle, and there are groups like that. There are also, there's still lots going on as far as music development are concerned. You've got the likes of Craig Charles, who does at least he did before the pandemic, he did like a funk night at Band on the Wall, and it was regular. I think it was every month or something. And yeah, I think it's just the sheer hodgepodge of the different types of culture, and then of course you've got the different different communities that have moved here. Like you've got the in Crumpsall in particular, which is where I know quite well. They have the they have the Jewish community, the Hasidic Jewish community. They've also got a small West Indies contingent, and they've also got a Muslim community. And I just love it. I absolutely love that part of life.
Lovely. What's your favorite place in Manchester?
I sort of touched on that, I suppose, didn't I? I was about to say grew up in. I didn't. I wish I'd have grown up in it, but I lived in Crumpsall for 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years actually, and I loved that because it's quite a quiet place. I mean, except for Park Life, when Heaton Park is taken over by Park Life. I kind of escape at that point. But yeah, I would say that the Crumpsall's Cheetham Hill sort of area is actually my favourite place to be. I went to the Cheetham Hill, or the Cheetham Cultural Festival, a couple of months, it must have been about a month ago by now, maybe a couple of months ago. Yeah, September, oh God. But it was fantastic. There was just so many different types of people. Met loads of people, and there was loads of food, which is great. And just a mixture of there were lots of performances on the main stage between, I think there was a Sikh group as well, that there was a young kids group who did a dance troupe thing, amazing. There was also, it was held at the it's a centre. I can't remember what centre it is now, but it was held, the hosts of this show, at least, they put on an incredible show afterwards. There were stalls, there was just so many different people to meet, and yeah, that was just lovely. What's
the most important life lesson you learned?
I've literally written one line for this in my little crib sheet here. You have more time than you think. I think that is
sounds very deep.
Yeah, it can mean literally like minute to minute, but it can also mean, as far as a decade is concerned, worrying about how much time you have cuts into that time. And and also I think that another thing that I've learned is that to trust my own instincts. I think everybody should to a certain degree, and if there's something doesn't feel right, even if it looks good on paper, just be careful. So instincts, trust your instinct, and you have more time than you think.
Love it. Thank you. And the last question today is, if someone wrote a book on your life, what would they title it, Kat?
Okay, so I had a couple of minutes to think about this. So one possible, because I'm not just one thing, of course, one possible title though would be Oh See Me, A Chronicle of Hidden Disability in the Arts.
So Kat, thank you so much for talking to me and my listeners. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the 4th episode of the Meet the Mancunian podcast. Tune in every week for a new episode.
Thank you.